You're watching Cartoon Network.
We'll be right back after these messages. And now, back to the show.
Coming up next, it's Tom and Jerry Kids, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Alvin and the Chipmunks, followed by a pup named Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Cow and Chicken, followed by Ed, Ed, and Eddie on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Cartoon-a-Doodle-Doo, followed by Tom and Jerry Kids on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Cow and Chicken, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Ed, Ed, and Eddie, followed by the Powerpuff Girls on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Courage the Cowardly Dog, followed by the Powerpuff Girls on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory, followed by Baby Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory, followed by Baby Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Johnny Bravo, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory, followed by Alvin and the Chipmunks on Cartoon Network.
Next up, it's Tom and Jerry Kids, followed by the Flintstones on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Followed by the Flintstones on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's the Powerpuff Girls, followed by Hamtaro on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, It's Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Cow and Chicken, followed by the new Scooby movie on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Baby Looney Tunes, followed by Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Baby Looney Tunes, followed by Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's the Acme Hour, followed by Cow and Chicken on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Mike, Blue, and Og, followed by Alvin and the Chipmunks on Cartoon Network.
Elmer, you've been boiling that pot of vegetables all day. Let's just forget about the rabbit, throw in some tofu, and eat. I'm hungry. Your favorite Playboy bunny will return.
No, not that kind. Although Bugs does look pretty good.
Roses are red, violets are blue, both smell sweet, unlike Pepe Le Pew. Bugs and Daffy will be right back. Gay Perry, love is always in the air. So whatever you do, stand upwind. Stay tuned, more Bugs and Daffy headed your way. We'll return with more of the Bugs and Daffy Show, right here on Cartoon Network. Have you seen this man? Yosemite Sam is wanted in 13 states for robbing banks, rustling cattle, and shooting dancing bunnies. Stay tuned for more details. We're back, and just in time for rabbit and duck season. Now back to Bugs and Daffy on Cartoon Network. Houston, we have liftoff. Houston, we may also have a problem. Now back to more Bugs and Daffy on Cartoon Network. Okay, you two, break's over. Let's go. Back to work. We'll return as soon as Tom regains consciousness. Is there a doctor in the audience? Nap's over. Tom and Jerry are back on Cartoon Network. You are watching Tom and Jerry Kids on Cartoon Network.
¿En el que el auto de Pedro se descompuso? En realidad fue que se le fracturó un pie.
We'll be back with the world's most brilliant inventor, Dexter. Of course, I guess I'm a little biased. Intruder alert, Dexter. Dee Dee has entered the lab. Uh-oh. We will return.
Must stay tuned for more Dexter. Study his weaknesses, so one day I, Mandorf, will rule his show. We now return to my sweet golden-haired daffodil, Dee Dee.
Now back to Dexter's greatest love, me on Cartoon Network.
My massive intellect predicts Dexter is back on Cartoon Network.
Take your partner by his wing, pick him up, do-si-do, pull him with the string. He'll land right there on his neck, battle him, do-si-do. We'll be right back.
And now the spring fowl first attempts flight. Only the cool hoof of nature from a nearby herd forces a commercial break.
Now watch the replay here, Mike. She plucks the chicken and boom, there's the play. More CNC on the way. Hey, Here are two kids enjoying a hearty snack. Let's listen in. Cow and chicken are back, and they're just ruining their dinner.
Now back to the chicken and the cow.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. And a little thing called Chemical X. The Powerpuff Girls will return on Cartoon Network. Thank heaven for little girls. And little girls who can fly and shoot laser beams, that is. The Powerpuff Girls will return on Cartoon Network. Making Pokey Oaks Elementary School proud. The Powerpuff Girls are back on Cartoon Network. Sworn to serve and protect. The Powerpuff Girls return on Cartoon Network.
Canker girls have got a real mean streak in them. And speaking of streak, it's a long run home from that pond, boys! The ads will be right back.
I'll admit those canker girls look a lot better with those female decorations. Goodness knows they can't look any worse.
These guys can't win for losing. The ads are back.
And now Double D removes his hat.
Major look.
Don't worry, pal. You've got those monsters right where you want them. We'll return to Courage the Cowardly Dog on Cartoon Network. Courage the Cowardly Dog, the ever-reluctant watchdog, returns on Cartoon Network.
Patience, my pet, patience. The show will be right back.
All aboard! There's more Cartoon Network on the way.
Now back to the show. Do you see how your patience paid off?
You're watching Cartoon Network. You're watching
watching Cartoon Network. And now, back to the show.
Coming up next, it's the Jetsons, followed by Scooby Movies on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's the Acme Hour, followed by Captain Planet on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Animaniacs, followed by the Cartoon Show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Scooby Movies, followed by the Acme Hour on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's more Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Followed by the Flintstones on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's the Acme Hour, followed by Animaniacs on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's the Bugs and Daffy Show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Bugs and Daffy, followed by SWAT Cats on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's the Cartoon Show, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Up next, Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Dogs hate cats, cats hate mice. That's a vicious cycle. Can't we all just get along? Stay tuned for more Tom and Jerry on Cartoon Network. Now back to more Tom and Jerry here on Cartoon Network. You're watching the Flintstones on Cartoon Network. Don't look now, but Pebbles has egg on her face. No, literally, she has egg on her face. The Flintstones will be right back. Join the club. Get it? Join the club. Okay, back to the show. You're watching The Jetsons on Cartoon Network. George, I know Mr. Spacely yells at you a lot, and it can be upsetting, but did you ever think of his feelings? Me neither. What a grouch, huh? Eep, hop, ork, and of course, Scooby-Doo and the gang went chasing a werewolf. I'll be hiding in the mystery machine if you need me. Now back to Scooby-Doo on the jinkiest place on Earth, Cartoon Network. Why can't you ever solve mysteries in the daytime, Scooby? The dark is so scary. You're watching Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network. You know, Scooby, you just might be running around with the wrong kind of crowd. We'll be right back. Da-da-da-da-da, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, looking for you, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Dog makeovers, next, Scooby Movies.
Equipment, 3,000. Repairs, 2,000. Blasting a giant octopus to smithereens, priceless. When you enter Dexter's lab, you take your life into your own hands. Or in this case, your own tentacles. More Dexter's lab on the way. The giant toxic octopus idea looked good on paper, but I'm afraid it's back to the drawing board. More Dexter's lab when we return. Dexter's back. I think that breath of fresh air did him some good. Welcome to Dexter's Laboratory. Enter at your own risk. If you ask me, Dexter's just a few drops shy of a full beaker.
Johnny Bravo ya está de vuelta por Cartoon Network.
La vaca aterrizó demasiado duro sobre Pollito y lo aplanó.
necesitamos un descanso para inflarlo. Chicos, no traten de hacer esto en casa. Si te gusta la carne, pon atención. La vaca y el pollito están de vuelta por Cartoon Network.
Ed, you better not be taking a bath. You know it's not Saturday. Is it? We'll be back with more Ed, Ed, and Eddie on Cartoon Network. Watch as the coaster goes round and round and it comes out here. Gathering more stacks of wisecracks. Animaniacs will be right back on Cartoon Network. Those zany to the max Animaniacs are back on Cartoon Network.
Estamos de vuelta con Beetlejuice por Cartoon Network.
Garfield volverá enseguida. Odie necesita tiempo para encontrar un buen escondite. Garfield luce aburrido. ¡Corre, Odie! Ya va a ser hora de comer otra vez. Garfield está de vuelta.
スイートミントカートゥーンネットワークでこの後すぐ。
All aboard! There's more Cartoon Network on the way.
You're watching Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Batman, followed by the real adventures of Johnny Quest on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's the real adventures of Johnny Quest, followed by the Flintstones on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, Super Friends continues, followed by Mysteries Inc. on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Superman, followed by Batman on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Captain Planet, followed by Boomerang on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Captain Planet, followed by Godzilla on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Captain Planet on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's SWAT Cats, followed by Thundercats on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Max Steel on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Codename Kids Next Door, followed by Whatever Happened to Robot Jones on Cartoon Network.
You're watching Batman on Cartoon Network. Gotham City is a playground to the vile criminal elements. The playtime is over when Batman returns.
In a city plagued by crime, there is but one man dedicated to eradicating this disease. His name is Batman. He will return.
You are watching Batman on Cartoon Network. Bruce Wayne has to take care of some business, but Batman will be back. Now, back to the Dark Knight. Now, back to Batman.
Never one to shy away from a good fight. Batman returns.
Evildoers, you can't escape the Batman. He's back. You're watching the Super Friends on Cartoon Network. Don't touch that remote control. You'll fall right into Lex Luthor's trap. Stay tuned for more Super Friends on Cartoon Network. Wonder Twin powers activate. Form of a commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be back. Welcome to the Hall of Justice. The Super Friends are back. More powerful than 10 locomotives. The Super Friends are back.
We'll be right back with Captain Planet.
Captain Planet is back. Gaia will be pleased.
Stick around. The SWAT Cats will return to kick more tail. Now, back to the Radical Squadron on Cartoon Network.